You guys hear me okay in the back? Yeah? Good. Okay. So hopefully you're past your food coma from lunch and you're ready to learn a little bit about pop-ups, right? My name is Heather Gonzago. I am a product engineer on the JavaScript API team. Been at the company for a while, so I've been through all different iterations of our technology. Started off with the web APIs doing Flex, and then moved on over to JavaScript. So I'm here with my better half, Kelly.
I'm Kelly Hutchins. I work also as a product engineer on the JavaScript team. I also work on the ArcGIS Online configurable apps. So we're going to talk about pop-ups today.
All right, so I think we're going to be screaming over all of the demo theaters. So if you guys can't hear anything, just raise your hand, ask me to repeat it, or Kelly, and we'll do our best. So last year we did this, and we kind of went between both 3x and 4x. This particular session, we are going to solely concentrate on 4x, mainly just because that is the direction that we kind of want people to start heading. We've basically redeveloped our pop-up experience with 4x, and hopefully what you guys see, you'll like it. Personally, I think it's a lot easier, pretty straightforward. So the very, very first thing, what we're going to do is we're going to show you just the straight default pop-up that you get directly off of your view. So I guess before I even get started, anybody here, is this going to be brand new to you guys? Brand new. Okay, so some of the stuff that we're going to show here is going to have some API things in it. It's beginner level, so I think you should be fine. But basically, what I'm going to show you on this first one, oh, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go back really quickly. All of our demos, all of these slides, everything that you see here is up on GitHub, and it's open. It's for the public, so you guys can access this if you want to go ahead and grab that URL. Later on, if you guys just want to, if you don't have it now, I can get it to you. But everything should be up there, the demos, and these slides as well. All right, so in my particular example, we're working with the map view. So all of these examples here, I don't think we have any 3D stuff, right? No 3D stuff. Within your map view, there is a pop-up property that you automatically get on that. So it's just automatically given to you. And in this particular example, I'm not really doing a whole lot, all right? It's a base map, that's it. But what I've done is I've gone in here and I've made a very ugly generic view pop-up just to show you guys that whatever there is directly on this view itself, we have this pop-up property. So I can go in here and customize it, and as it says, it's kind of generic. It's not really going to do you guys a whole lot of good. But just for demonstration purposes, if I show you the code, I see that okay? All right. You can see here I have my map view, and then on the click event on my view, I'm calling pop-up open. And you can see here I have that pop-up property directly on that view. In here I have a location property, a title property, and a content property. It's just a string. All right, so at the very, very, very basic level, you have this. We also have a sample in our SDK that shows you how to work with something like this as well. Before I go any further, I want to open that up. So we have a get started with pop-ups. Okay, and basically what this does, it opens up. If you click on this, it's going to go in here and give you the coordinate location of the area that you clicked on the map. All right? So very, very basic level. The pop-up property directly on the view. But you're probably going to want to go in there and actually, you know, you need to be a little bit more specific. Probably need to have some, you want pop-up specific for your feature layer, right? So what you're going to work with is we have a pop-up template that you can access directly off of your feature layer. So in this case, we are working with cryptid sightings. Cryptid is a word that I was not familiar with until a few weeks ago. Basically monsters within the United States. So this is just a handful, but what we've done is I've created a feature layer, or Kelly created a feature layer of these monsters. And what you can see here is I'm using a pop-up template to display a title. So my title in this case is called the Bat Squatch. That's my monster name. And then a content, which is just a text description that's telling it what it is. So it's a winged humanoid often seen near Mount Helens. So if we took a look at this, you know, and actually I forgot to mention something. Kelly's going to talk a little bit more about this, but one of the things I probably should have brought up in the past demo is the pop-up also gives you a lot of really cool just functionality directly out of the box. What we have here is we have a docking ability. So I can dock this pop-up to whatever location. You can actually customize that. And we have custom actions as well. Kelly's going to show you how to create your own custom action, but there's one already that's just directly provided to you within this pop-up, and that's this Zoom to. So I should have mentioned that right out of the gate. You don't need to put, that's not anything that I wrote. That's directly within the pop-up itself. All right, so if we take a look at this, what you'll notice is I have my feature layer, but I also have a pop-up template property directly in that feature layer. Within the pop-up template, I'm passing in my monster, and I have an attribute within this feature layer called name. So I can just go ahead, reference that attribute field, and it knows automatically to bring in the value for that property. And in addition to that, I'm passing in some content here. So what you'll notice is that I have some very, very basic formatting. So I'm passing in, telling it the description, putting it in bold, and then I also have a description field within that feature class or feature layer with the, that has, and so basically what it's doing is it's bringing in that value for that specific description. Okay, so as you can see, I mean, there's not a lot. I don't have a lot of code involved here. I'm basically just passing in that pop-up template. Okay. All right, so any of you guys that, you guys work in ArcGIS Online or Portal, create your own pop-up, so you're going to see the experience should be very, very similar. You are now able, if you worked in 3X, you might have been a little frustrated. We had some limitations on some of the things that you could bring in, how many elements that you could bring in. In this particular case now, we are actually able to create a template within the content. So the content that I just showed you was just a string value. You can also pass in like various multiple elements. So for example, this is a pop-up template within the SDK. There's a content property within the pop-up template. You can actually set this as a text, as media. So if you've ever wanted to show like an image or a chart, that's where that media would go. Fields, so just field information, or attachments. Okay, so if you want to have, if you have a feature class or a feature layer that's enabled for attachments, it will automatically recognize that and show it within your pop-up. So let's just take a quick look All right, let's move to the East Coast. All right, so in this particular case, I have my monster. It's on Lake Champlain, Champ. So I'm working with multiple elements here. I've got my field info, so I have 3 fields that I'm showing. I have some configured text that I wanted to bring in. I'm bringing in a reference to an image that I have stored within that feature layer. And I also have an attachment that I've gone in and attached to this particular feature itself as well. So in this case, it's nothing fancy. It's just an artist rendering of, I guess, what Champ would, not a fancy rendering, but it's an image of Champ. All right. So if we take a look at this, a little bit more code's involved, but again, it's within the template. So I'm creating a template variable, passing my title, and then here's where all of those content, those elements are stored. So I have my fields. So in this case, I've got the alias location and an edit date field. I have the text, and as you can see here, that text looked a little different this time around, right? So I'm actually in here, and I've done a little bit of markup to format how that text will actually display within that pop-up. And as you can see here, it's passing in, so for each individual feature, it's going to pass in the name, the location, and then the description. And then I got to give credit where credit is due, so the copyright information as well. I have the media element, so I'm passing in my image, or it could have been a pie chart, or not a pie chart, it could have been a chart, like a pie chart, bar chart. And then the source URL. And then lastly, I also have attachments, and there's nothing more to it. You just say attachments. If it has one, it will automatically bring it on over. I give it my out fields for the feature layer, and then pass in that template I just created above into the Popup Template property of that feature layer. We also have, so these little demos that we're going to be showing you, we have very similar samples within our help as well. They're not based off monsters, but the concepts and the functionality are pretty straightforward and pretty much the same. So if we took a look here for multiple pop-up elements, you'll see here it's very similar. I've got multiple fields. I have a pie chart. Hover over it. It's giving me some information on that. So again, if that's something that you're interested in, all of the code's there to look at as well. And then lastly, like in 3, you're able to pass in functions for your content. You can do the same thing in 4. So in this particular case, I am going to click on Bat Squatch. And what I have in this case, what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead, click on this link, and what it does is it's going to open up and do a Google search for Bat Squatch. All right, and all I'm doing is within the template, in my content, I'm calling this search web function. It takes, and I have it all written out here, so if anybody's interested later, if you want to take a look at this, just go to the repo. It's going to take the value of that selected feature, its associated graphic, and that attribute. So in this case, I am setting the variable for that field, that name, the name field. And then I'm going to call open page. So JavaScript open page. And all that does then is it just goes in and it does a Google search based off of, in this case, it was Bat Squatch, or whatever the name is. And then pass that template in to your pop-up template property within the feature layer. So I know that was a whole lot of information it's kind of thrown at you, but Kelly's going to take it a couple steps further and talk about customizing and so forth.
Thanks, Heather. I think we're looking at mine now. So the first thing I wanted to show you is I'm kind of lazy and I sort of hate to type, and it's great that you can add all that functionality in the pop-up template, but you have to type it all out. I hate doing it. And I use ArcGIS Online. How many people out here use ArcGIS Online to make web maps? So if you do that, it's really easy in ArcGIS Online to configure your pop-ups, right? Here we're looking at the online map viewer. Here's the configure dialog. You can just click here and add some fields. You can style them. You can do some more clicking to add images, but not a lot of typing. It's pretty quick. Doesn't require a bunch of development time to create the pop-up. If I then save that pop-up into my web map, I can use that same pop-up information that comes through in the web map without writing any code. So I'm going to show you here, we have a web map. If I click on this feature, Heather showed you earlier that you could dock it, but I have some text, and I also in this case have a little video that can play. All this was created in ArcGIS Online. So if I look at the source code for this app, I can see that this is all there is. So all I'm doing is creating a web map, giving the item ID for my web map, and all that pop-up stuff comes for free that I configured. So let's prove this by taking another web map ID, go to my source code somewhere down here. All right, I'm going to unminimize this. My keystrokes are not being helpful. Okay, so here I have some code. Here's the code for that web map. I'm going to replace the web map ID, save it, refresh. And now instead of looking at video of trail running, you're looking at video or pictures of cute dogs. Again, this was just a web map. The source code, you just specify that web map ID and you get all that pop-up information you configured in ArcGIS Online. So I find that really sort of a time saver. The next thing I want to talk about is Popup Actions. Heather mentioned those. Let's look at it in action. So she told you that the Zoom to was the default pop-up action that we got out of the box, and that you could add additional actions. So here we have another action added next to it. If you hover over it, it says Monster Info. It has a little nice monster picture. If we click on it, it brings up, it does a Google search and finds some information. But there's a lot of other things that you could do here because you get access to that selected feature. So you could run a geoprocessing task. Maybe if it was trail information, you could create an elevation profile and show that when somebody wanted that extra information. There's a lot of things that you can do with that pop-up action. So let's look at the source code for that. You could do this at 3x. It's a little easier at 4x to do it. Here's a general idea in our pop-up template. We create this new action. We specify an ID, an image that we want to show up, and a title. So that's the text that people will see next to that link. And then there's this trigger action that we can listen to and say, hey, when somebody clicks on that link, we want to do something. So in this case, we're just going to check and see if it's actually the Find Monster link that was clicked on. If it was, we get the selected feature, we get some attribute information from it, and in this example, we construct a Google search. But like I mentioned earlier, it could be a geoprocessing task or elevation profile or 8,000 other things that you can do on that click. So out of the box, there are various themes that come that let you make your pop-up look slightly different. Let's look at this sample. So here's an example of a green theme. So when we click that pop-up, we see that we no longer have the white background. Now we're looking at this minty green color. There is a help topic in the API that you want to take a look at if you're interested in it. It tells you about all the out-of-the-box themes that are available. So we have various color options there. There's also some more information about custom CSS and Sass. Anybody in here use Sass? CSS preprocessor, a couple of head nods, yep. So if you use that, take a look at this. It's a quick and easy way to modify that color scheme for all the widgets. And we'll look at the source code for this one again really quickly to see how we use the theme. Oh, thank you.
It should be in the CSS, like where you reference the CSS. Yeah, see that? Right there.
Yes, sorry, I'm blind. So up here at the top where we link the style sheet, instead of the default style sheet, we're adding the light green in this case. But you could change it to be any of these other color values and have a different look. Another way you might want to modify the pop-up is maybe you don't want to change the whole pop-up background to be a particular color. Maybe you just want to change one piece of it. So let's look at how we do that. So here's an example again of some dogs or cat, I think in this case, yeah, a cat. And in this example, we still have this white background, but I wanted to change the title area to be a red color, maybe to match the theme of my application, and change this font color to be white instead of black. And there's a couple different ways to do that. You can look at the CSS in the help, there's a link to it. I find it easiest to use the developer tools available in the browser. So let's go to a pop-up that's not styled, and we'll look at this. So here's a pop-up that's not styled, but let's say I want to turn this a different color. I can just right-click and say Inspect in the browser, and it brings up the browser tools. I can click on Esri pop-up header element, and I could see the styles associated with that element. And I could come over here, and if I could type, I could pick a color. Let's say we want to make it orange. And then I got to get back to my other window. All right, I'm going to dock this really quickly.
Do a command tab.
Command tab's not working for me for some reason. There it goes. Thank you, Heather. See, yeah, it's not working to get back to it.
Just minimize the from DevTools. It's a pain when they're all on the same screen.
Okay, so now it's orange, but I'm going to minimize this so that we don't have that problem again. So now we turn it orange. It's just temporary. So let's go back and look at that again. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now I'm going to dock it. So now we can see here, there's our orange. Okay, there's our orange. And here is the element that we changed. So if I refresh the page, that change is gone. But I can just copy. This is the CSS class associated with that header element that I wanted to change. I can paste that into my source code, modify the color there, and it's permanent. So I can do the same thing if the text. Maybe I really want this to be white now instead of black. So I can inspect it. I can see here, I could just temporarily modify the color to see if I like the way it looks. Once I decide I like that look, I can just copy those classes, paste them into the style section or my CSS file, and the change is permanent then. So let's look at the source code to prove that that's what we were doing there. So here we have some CSS. This was the red I mentioned earlier. Here's those colors I copied, or those rules I copied by using the inspect tools in the browser to make those modifications permanent. Because like I mentioned earlier, once I refresh the page, those updates I made are gone, and we no longer see the new colors. So I think that's it. We just have the survey slides. So if you can take the survey, we appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and ask us.